all living in a world gone geek. It's time to geek hard or go home. The podcast is real. Here's your host, Grounded Geek.
All right. Hey, everybody. What is up? It's Sunday night. That means it is time. Whoa. And it's coming out everywhere. I am so glad to be back. We are now doing this weekly. So last week we did a show, and this week technically we would not normally be doing a show, but guess what? Here I am, and we're doing a show. So that means we are live 2 weeks in a row. We're going to try to do this every week. We'll see what happens, but very excited about it, and we got a lot to talk about tonight. And usually we do, multiple topics. That's not going to be the case tonight. We're going to focus on one thing. There was more than one. We're going to chat briefly about some of the other things, but one big thing that happened this week that we really want to center on and give some attention to. But before we do that, I can't do this show alone. So please welcome to the show my co-host Yuta and Allea.
Stick with it. It's not all. Just
tell Richard we're starting the show over here.
Sorry. Greetings, program. He's watching, Zack Snyder's Justice League and was complaining about how it's just all slow motion.
I gotcha.
And I told him, stick with it.
Just play it and just push fast forward and watch it that way with the subtitles
on. It doesn't get better.
All right.
The 2X button.
Hey, Allea, how are you?
I'm doing good. I worked today.
That's good. Got to get that money, right?
Yeah, got to get the dough.
It's
how are you, Jeff?
I'm good. I'm real good. This week I started some of you know that we're working on a couple of other shows for our YouTube channel. One of them is called Grounded Geek is Late to the Game. Because often I start playing video games like well after they're not popular anymore. And so, or not necessarily when they're not popular, but just they've sort of, died down a little bit. And I finally started Animal Crossing the other day. So I'm playing that and I have no idea what I'm doing, but
you're kind of late to the game.
A little late, yeah. It started at the beginning of the pandemic, and now that the pandemic is almost over, I'm finally ready to get into that. So I started that this week. That's my exciting news this week, and I also got scheduled for my Fauci Ouchie, which is tomorrow. So Utah, I know that you got yours last week.
Got our Fauci Ouchies on Friday. The first dose. The second dose will be in April. Yeah.
So my wife and I are scheduled for tomorrow, which is very interesting. So we're going to see how that goes down at the big Wolstein Center. They got like a FEMA. I don't know if we have to wear a hazmat suit and looking like
no, you'll be fine. But
Dustin Hoffman from Outbreak. Like, should we go in and I'm thinking it's going to be really exciting.
How surreal is it though that in real life we're talking about something called a mass vaccination site?
Yeah, it does feel like Walking Dead, doesn't it?
Right. That's like right out of any apocalyptic or zombie movie, right?
Yeah. And I shouldn't trust anybody when I walk in there because
just
if you believe the movies, the bad guys are always in charge of those places.
Well, the Army and the National Guard are there, so there's a bunch of military around. And
interesting.
They've got these chairs all lined up on this, the convocation floor, so it's all very surreal, right out of a movie, but very efficient.
Well,
we were in
it should be interesting. Gonna get that tomorrow. Yeah. And you had a very eventful week, not just your Fauci Ouchie, but Saturday, which was yesterday. Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Yes. Yesterday was my birthday, and I should have known. So all week, Karen was saying, I'm sorry we're not doing anything for your birthday. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm okay with a low-key birthday, It's my 50th, but still, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. I should have known something was up. She never asks that question multiple times. But the whole day was a big surprise. There was a big sign out in the yard. People came by throughout the day to wish me a happy birthday. Got video messages. It was very sweet.
Awesome.
Just talking about it, I'm getting verklempt. So.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. We're glad that you made it another rotation around the sun.
Another trip around the sun. As Simi's friend so nicely put it, wow, you're halfway to 100.
I know. That's what I wasn't going to go there. I was going to say, man, that's half a century. And that, except that, I'm only a couple years away from there myself, or 1 year away from it.
My friend.
So yeah,
seasoned.
very seasoned.
Very
yeah.
seasoned. Yeah,
But we look
I have a
good.
Some seasoned French fries.
I have a
We
shirt
both
from
look good, I
yesterday.
think, though. Utah looks good for 50. Nobody would guess 50, I wouldn't
I
think.
wouldn't have guessed 50.
Yeah, no.
Oh, you guys are just saying
48,
that.
maybe.
49 maybe, but not 50.
49.5.
There you go.
You have to do the half.
You
Yeah.
have to do the half.
You know, like the kids, whenever they're like, I'm 8.5.
Right? It's funny, you do that all the time when you're little. You get the half. And then you start rounding up when you're a teenager, kind of. You know what I mean? Like if you're almost 14, you're just 14. Do you know what I mean? If you're almost 15, it's 14 and a half is, oh, I'm 15, or I'm almost an adult now, Dad, whatever, right? So you start rounding up. And then when you get to be like 30, you start rounding down, right? And then
All of a
and then
sudden,
you
you're always 30.
yeah. I'm 30 for the 28th time.
Right.
So
This is the 5th anniversary of my 30th birthday.
there you go. Yeah, that's pretty much how it works. But now at this age, yeah, we do start like, I'm not 50 yet. I'm like 49 and a half.
I'm 49 in 364 days. Leave me alone.
Yeah. I'll turn 49 this year, so we'll see. My wife is turning 50 though. She's older than me. She's
Oh, then she can. I'll give her the shirt that Karen gave me, which was "May the 50th be with you."
That was an awesome logo. I saw that on the
the Star
invite. I
Wars
thought that was
logo,
really
yeah.
cool. Yeah, that was really neat. All right, so that was exciting. Obviously, happy birthday, Utah. That's a big deal and a big milestone. And a big movie came out this week, and we're going to spend most of the show talking about that because this movie talks. It's 4 hours long.
I don't know
And
what movie you're talking about.
So we're.
I feel like we would.
So
we
we're
would
gonna do a 4-hour podcast.
Well, it feels like it would take that long to cover everything that's changed and different, and it really is a lot. But no, we're not. We're going to try to keep it closer to an hour and a half, like we usually do. But what we're going to do first is I have to bring this up because it's exciting. Falcon and Winter Soldier, Sam and Bucky Power Hour started this week
Power
too.
Hour.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you see the first episode? Okay. All right. Spoiler alert, guys, if you haven't seen it yet. And I don't know how you can wait on this one. Like Snyder Cut, I get. If you haven't watched it yet, you're like 4 hours. I got to find a 4-hour block, or I'm going to split it up. Libby and I split it up over 2 nights, 2 hours each. It was very palatable that way. I think that may have led to a better experience of the movie. I don't know. Zack Snyder, I'm sure, wouldn't agree. But it worked for me. But no, this is, a 40-minute show. It's on Fridays. We're going to talk about it on Sundays. It's just kind of the way it is. So if you haven't watched it yet, I don't plan to spoil anything. I just want to tell people how great it was, right? It's pretty great.
It was awesome. It was, it's a nice change of pace from WandaVision, which was very out there and very different from everything else that we've seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This kind of goes back to what I think what most people are used to seeing in Marvel movies, a little bit of action, some espionage.
A lot of action.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Really
some
great
crazy action.
Really great
stuff.
action.
Yeah.
And a bit more grounded than what WandaVision was, but it was really well done. I was really happy to see. And again, just like in WandaVision, where I really, really enjoyed and appreciate the deep dive into the backstory of Wanda and Vision that you couldn't get in the movies because they weren't the tier A characters, so to speak. You get the same thing here with Sam and Bucky, where it's very obvious we're going to be diving into the characters and the backstory of both Sam and Bucky. And I think there's a great opportunity in both of their backstories to deal with some serious issues, like with Bucky and his mental issues, because holy cow, what has he gone through between being brainwashed and then being cleared and then having to deal with his past, the guilt of that, of what he did as a Winter Soldier. I love the fact that he was in therapy. I like that they're doing that front and center. I think that's cool. And then Sam, I didn't realize he was from Louisiana. I don't think he is in the comics, but to see his family backstory, how him being gone for 5 years affected his family and himself.
Yeah.
Also, the whole thing about picking up the mantle of Captain America, having the shield handed to him, and yet not feeling ready for it. There's obviously issues he's dealing with. So, but yeah, holy cow! They open up with some great action. They dive a little bit into the character, and end with a great cliffhanger. I'm in.
What'd you think, Allea?
I mean, you did pretty much hit the nail right on the head. I mean, one of my favorite things about shows is character development, and I think that they really allow you to resonate with the characters.
Mm.
And it's like you said, Yuta, going back to Sam being from NOLA. I mean, you think about the hardships that his family has probably went through. Obviously, losing his parents, and his sister kind of having to take over their family business, not sure if they're going to be able to survive. How many people are able to resonate with that? And I think that definitely draws in more people, just that factor alone. And then Bucky, we know that obviously Bucky has been through a lot, right? Just from watching other movies, but being able to really see it on that, like, that backside, even just from him waking up from that nightmare, and him and that older gentleman, I can't remember his name, their relationship. Sorry, what is it?
Yakamura, I think.
Yeah, Yakamura. Their relationship, and he's trying to make amends, right, for what he did. And you could tell that he wanted to, say something towards the end of the show, but he was just so gutted.
I know. I was like, oh my God, is he going to tell him? What's the guy going to say? Like, oh, that was that moment.
And as soon as, he came and had lunch with that old Japanese gentleman, the first thing my thought was, oh my gosh, like, is he connected to what we saw at the beginning? Because why would they show that relationship if there wasn't something significant to it?
Yeah.
And to put that into the whole him trying to make amends, just really it makes it tough.
But there's also that comedic aspect of it, right? Whenever he starts that car with the corporate lady, and she's the three rolls. There is that comedic aspect.
I do like that they still keep a light touch. Yeah, the way that Bucky has to say the rule number 3, and it's like, I'm not.
Yeah, that was great. Well, once those two connect, I think a lot more of those kind of things, because that's what the movies were all about. They had that kind of where they butt heads a little bit, but they still respect and care for each other.
But one thing that I really liked as well was when he was on the date, and she asked him, why do you wear gloves? And he looked down, or the camera pointed downwards towards his hands. And it's always interesting how, like, when you in your mind you think it's a flaw, right? And obviously for him, this is something that he has to carry around, and it's probably a trigger or some sort of it's a remembrance, right? When you look down and you realize that you have a metal arm. But not being able to tell anyone, not being able to talk to anyone about it outside of your therapist, about what you're going through, because who's really going to understand or have empathy for what you did?
Right.
That whole guilt factor that Yuta was talking about, and it's sad.
Steve would have, and that's I think he's at the center of this whole conflict for both of them. I mean, Sam is was supposed to take up the mantle, and he doesn't feel up to it, doesn't feel right. And without spoiling anything, we find out at the end Sam probably should have, because it's not something happens and we're like, what is this? So we're going to see as that continues. But yeah, I think it's a great show. I think, like WandaVision revealed, and I think you had said at one point, Yuta, that Wanda is probably one of the most tragic characters in the MCU. Like, her backstory is so tragic. And I feel like we're getting that same feel from Bucky. Like, you don't realize, like, he was a murderer. Like, he was an assassin. Like, he went around and killed people, and you wouldn't hope that they deserved it, but he was working for the bad guys. So yeah, so that's
sorry, go ahead.
And so now he has to make amends and things like that. So that I think this is going to be just fascinating to watch that unfold as these guys start to learn how to accept their past and move forward into the future together. It's going to be an interesting show.
Well, and you remember in the Civil War, Bucky had that line, and near the end where Tony asked him, do you even remember killing my parents? And Bucky says, and in such a pained way in his face and his voice, I remember every single one.
Yep.
And so, but the thing is that he can't do anything about it.
Right.
And that's the
I
worst
mean,
part.
that's something I hope they dive into and kind of explore the fact that he has to deal with his guilt of being the body that committed these heinous crimes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be. I'm hoping that they do a good balance of the action and the delving of the character, because both Sam and Bucky are very rich.
Something that's very interesting to me was how the therapist kept saying, you should, it's almost like she was saying, you should be glad because you're pardoned, right? For the things that you've done. You should be happy because, all of the bad that
doesn't
you
work
did.
That way.
It does not work that way, right? Like it was almost like, like trying to sugarcoat the pain that he has done as well as caused. I thought that was, kind of
on paper, the pardon erases all of that, but it's still up here.
Oh, sure.
And he has to deal with it.
Yeah. This is going to be a great show. I don't care what anybody says. So far, it's just phenomenal. We just made it sound like it's a huge drama show, but it was full of action, and it was full of, but it does delve into these important issues, and that's what I think just absolutely makes it great. So check it out. It's on Fridays on Disney Plus. It's our new Friday obsession. I think I think any of us waited until after Friday to watch it. I think it was pretty much that day. So, make sure you check that out. We'll probably start each show talking a little bit about it because it's just so big and so great. That mean, you know what that means? Since we kind of got our little early banter out of the way, it's time for
This Week in Geek.
And this week, it was the Snyder Cut, baby. So, or should I say, Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is the official title of the new. And how cool would that be, right? It just, like, the movie's got your name in it. You're the director. Like, it's not just, it's not just E.T. It's Steven Spielberg's E.T., except it's not. Like, we don't call it that. No. I don't know. I just think that's kind of cool. Like, as a director, like, as a guy who wants to, who would love to make movies, like, just, it's not just Justice League and then, a film by Zack Snyder. No, it's Zack Snyder's Justice League. How cool is that? But anyway, I digress. Yes, Zack Snyder's Justice League came out as opposed to the Justice League, which is what apparently folks in the internet are now calling the Justice League original cut, which was directed, of course, by Joss Whedon, who is a little bit disgraced right now. We're still looking into that news, but we don't have to talk about him necessarily. We do talk a little bit about his movie because they remade it. They basically took that one and said, all right, Zach, what were you really hoping to do? And gave him a ton of money, and he got to do it. So we're still going to do our 3 things you need to know. So here we go.
Number 1.
All right, so we're going to start off with your first impressions of Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut. I told you guys earlier what we're going to talk about a little bit later. We're going to get into a little more details in the second and third part. But starting now, just overall impression. How did you feel when the movie was done, Allea?
Oh, God.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so
you felt tired, right? No.
I definitely was.
You said you needed a nap when we were about to go live.
Yeah, I definitely needed a nap.
I was hoping you would stay awake long enough to talk to us about this. And thankfully you have so far.
Yeah, because last night I actually stayed up until 1:00 in the morning watching it. And for some of you, you're probably thinking 1:00, that's not that late. I'm typically in bed by like 10. So for me, that was very late. And also, I think that it was a good movie, and I'll go into that a little bit further later, but I do think that it was a good movie. Do I think that it was long? Absolutely. It was definitely very long. I had to break it up into like hour. I tried to do the 2 hours. My situation, obviously, like you guys know, is kind of a little bit difficult, but overall I thought it was a pretty decent movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Utah?
I would agree with Allea. It's an interesting animal, this Zack Snyder's Justice League, to me, because I feel like this wouldn't have been able to happen if it weren't for where we are in the world in terms of streaming services being as prominent as they are. I feel like if HBO Max didn't exist or wasn't around, there's no way something like this would have been released in the theater. I think 4 hours is already risky. You know, the 3-hour Endgame was risky enough.
Sure.
But they did it, and they succeeded. I don't think Warner Brothers would have said, "Oh yeah, let's go ahead and release a 4-hour, 2-minute movie," because people are going to come and see it. But that being said, I did at the end find it more enjoyable than the Justice League. But the Justice League to me was already so obviously two different movies kind of spliced together. Like it was very obvious what Zack Snyder did and very obvious what Joss Whedon redid or put in. And so to me, it was already kind of a bad monster of a movie. And so the bar was set low. But that, but I actually enjoyed Justice League. I feel like there's no other way it could have been done other than the 4-hour length, because you start taking bits and pieces out. Some of the bits and pieces that were added were the good parts that made it better. And a better kind of smooth narrative arc all the way across. So it was definitely better than Justice League. Will I watch it again? Probably not. But I'm not in love with it. But I thought it was worth the time to watch it, and I thought it was a much more cohesive story. So
yeah, I'm there too. That's where I am. So, you know, I was definitely a skeptic going into this. Like, I mean, if you've listened to any of our past shows, anytime we mention the Snyder Cut, or if we go even further back when we were just talking about the hashtags before they even announced this, like I was so frustrated with that movement. And I'm not with them. I mean, they wanted to see it, and that's great. I love that. But at the same time, I'm just like, guys, like whatever cut there is of this movie, it can't be great, right? Because of the whole, when Joss took over, like he wasn't even close to finishing it. So whatever cut there is, it's not finished. So who cares if we really see that? That was kind of my attitude. Not that I didn't, so when they announced that they're going to give him another shot, I was like, oh, well, it's a little different. My attitude changed a little bit. Now I'm like, okay, well, wait a minute. He's getting $70 million more to finish this movie, do some reshoots, kind of do the vision that he wanted. And I was kind of, was glad for him, because it's not like he got fired, right? I mean, he left for a very sad, tragic reason. And as a father, I totally feel for the guy, and so, we see so many of these movies. What I was worried about is that every time somebody does, because people, as soon as the Snyder Cut got approved, people were talking, this is why the hashtags bothered me. Not that I didn't want Snyder to have another chance, not that I didn't want that thing. They bothered me because people then were like, well, where is the Feig cut of Ghostbusters? Where's the Trank cut of the Fantastic Four that was so absolutely terrible? Because the studios interfere, and that's their excuse. But I'm like, okay, but we saw what you put on screen. I mean, what you left on the cutting room floor would have to be amazing to to change this into anything better. I'm talking about Fantastic Four. Like I can't imagine there's another version of his movie that's better. Unless he remakes some stuff. So I don't want that to be a new trend where we just a director makes a bad movie. Oh, studio interfered, and then we're like, okay, make it again, and then they make another one. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to be a trend. I would like to see us fight back against the studio interference. I would like to see fighting, whatever it is that's making the originals be so bad. Let's figure that out and fix that. That's what I meant by that. And so when all that is said and done, I was grateful that a guy who, again, through no fault of his own, didn't get a chance to make the movie he wanted to make. But at the same time, I also knew, well, it's still super dark, and that wasn't really, what I was looking for. It's still not, some things like that. Now that the movie is out, here's how I feel. Sorry, I had to preface it a little bit. I actually, compared to the Justice League, this is vast, far and away improvement. Like, it is not even in the same realm of the same movie that Joss Whedon put out. Now, there's a lot of the same scenes in it, but they cut some of the stuff Joss put in that they cut out, and that they reshot and did differently is just light years better than the original. Now, I still don't think this is Endgame. I still don't think this is Infinity War. I don't think this is like the greatest film that DC can put out. But I did think it was a great film. I actually thought it was really good. I'm with Allea is definitely too long. And as a guy who edits for a living, I mean, not feature films, but I'd love to. Although I am, although if you look on IMDb or watch the credits of Avengers or Falcon and Winter Soldier, you're going to see my name, Jeffrey Ford. It's not me. It's an actual guy who has the same name as me, who is also an editor, but he does feature films, and I do business videos for a software company. But whatever. But my point is, when I was doing a roundtable with some friends from the Game Fix show, which thanks to those guys, Game Fix show is a great show. They actually do their show live tomorrow, Monday, I think, on Facebook. Check them out if you're into video games. It's a great show. Spanish and James and Verlaine and different folks over there talking about stuff. But I did a roundtable with them. They invited me to talk about Snyder Cut, we were, as we were talking about it, I joked, I said, this is, as an editor, like, I was so frustrated with how long this was, and some of the scenes that just did not need to be in there. And he's like, "Oh, I would like to see a Jeff Ford cut," like joking around. And I said, "You know what?
The Jeff Ford cut,
right? Release the Jeff Ford cut, or release the Grounded Geek cut. I'd rather have that." But because then they'll think that they want the Avengers editor to do it, and then they'll give it to him, and I'll be like, "No, it was my idea." Anyway. Yeah, and so we just started naming scenes that were so like long and out of place and didn't add anything to the context. And I was like, you know what we just did? We literally just eliminated 15 minutes from this movie. We're bringing it closer to Endgame already. And then I'm like, and there's so much more that we could pull out. And so, yeah, this could easily have been a 3-hour movie.
Just tone down
so
some
bloated.
Of the slow motion.
Yeah, the slow motion itself, like in some instances, I get it when Flash is doing stuff, it makes sense. In other instances, I get it because it's again, it's in that 4:3 because it's supposed to be on an IMAX screen.
Right.
Can you imagine some of that frenetic action on an IMAX if it wasn't in slow motion? So I get it. I kind of get it. But there's
so much of it.
There is a lot, right? And
there's even like slow mower. Like slowed down
even
slow motion.
Yeah, even like, slower slow-mo, yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that was possible, but there it is. But yeah, no, I think it definitely. So if my biggest complaint isn't about the story, because the story was actually really good this time. The story was
much better.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Like I was like, what? I'm actually invested in some of these characters for a change. Like, and I was not in the other movie. Like I could care less what happened to these people. So that was good, but man, it's so bloated and overdone. Like it's just too much. But that's Snyder, right? Like that's his style. That's his thing. MO. And so I'm not trying to take away from his creativity. Like that's his creative thing. That's him. It's not me. It's not my preference. So, whatever. But I think if you cut it down to 3 hours, you would have a better movie, and certainly better than Justice League. So all that said, way better. I mean, he definitely improved what Joss did. And in the coming sections here, we're going to talk about exactly what he did to make it better.
Number 2.
So I think we all kind of agreed that some of the best parts of this new take on this movie was the more fleshed out backstories that we got from some of the side characters. So we got Batman versus Superman. We got Man of Steel. They didn't feel the need to give us Batman's origin story, because how many times have we seen Batman's origin story? I'm on board with that. We don't need to see his parents get killed every few years when they decide to reboot this stuff.
Poor parents. Every time.
I feel like if we see the Batman, I hope they don't show that again. Now, if he has a brief flashback, whatever, but not like this whole, like, we don't need to see that.
No.
It's just, we get it. It's kind of like seeing Uncle Ben die over and over and over again.
Exactly.
Which they haven't done, thankfully.
Skip that.
Yes.
That was smart.
So it's like almost everybody knows that how they became those characters now. So I'm fine that we didn't get a Batman origin story. I liked Man of Steel, even though maybe some people didn't. But at the end of the day, we have backstories from these two pretty fleshed out. Aquaman got his own movie, but it came out after Justice League, I believe. And then Wonder Woman got her own movie, and it was awesome. So so we're left with who? Flash and Cyborg, and maybe Aquaman needing a little bit more, something, because we haven't seen his movie yet, technically. So all three of those guys get a little more meat onto their stories in this one, I believe. So let's start with the Flash, played by Ezra Miller. Barry Allen is his real name. I don't know if anyone ever calls him the Flash in the movie. I don't think they do, but
they do.
Maybe that'll happen when the Flash movie comes out. But
Well, I think the Flash movie is called the Barry Allen movie.
yeah, maybe, or Ezra Miller's The Flash. I don't know.
Right.
He's not
Barry
directing
Allen
it, but
show.
No. The Barry Allen Power Hour.
That's right. Or
Utah, what did you think of Flash's backstory?
I liked it a lot, because if you think back to the Justice League, all we really got was, security cam footage of him stopping a robbery at a convenience store, right? And then Batman stops at his place and goes, "Oh, you're fast," and that's all we get.
Mm-hmm,
and then he becomes the comic relief throughout the rest of the film. So we basically got nothing other than what we already know about the Flash, which is he's fast. So I liked the fact that they fleshed out a little bit, showed a little bit more of him and his father, who was incarcerated. I liked the fleshing of that story, and I feel like we got a lot more father-son relationship stuff in Zack Snyder's movie than we had in Justice League, which I think was nothing.
There was a little bit. There was just one scene though.
There was like tiny thing, but I mean, but like between Barry Allen having more stuff with his father, Cyborg and his father, that whole thing was just so much more fleshed out, and part of the reason why I was more invested in Cyborg's story. And then Aquaman, of course, has daddy issues too. What is it with these guys?
Right. Well, he's more upset with his mom, I think, right? Because she didn't tell him what was up.
He is much more upset about his mom and just doesn't want to take the throne from right. That's true. That makes sense. I liked what they did with Flash, though. I mean, showing that I feel like they showed that he had more command of his powers and knew more about his powers than Justice League showed. We actually got to see him in action. Mm-hmm. We got to see him meet Iris, which I thought was great. As a comic geek, I think that was something that was great. So there wasn't that much more. The Iris West is the girl that. We don't really know that's her, but it's people. I mean, it's assumed that that's who that was, and I think he may have confirmed it, but not in the film. We don't know that. Right.
That's
I didn't even think to look at the credits to see if what.
Oh yeah.
She was.
I mean, they don't call her by name in the movie, but everyone's like, "Oh, this is how he meets Iris."
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's how.
So, I think the Flash got the least in terms of extra backstory, but it was just enough to make him more of a three-dimensional character than just the guy who goes fast. So,
yeah. What did you think of Cyborgs, Allea?
Yeah, I'm gonna say something about Flash. I know you. Want me to
please
talk
do.
About...
No, it's all good. I wanted to get both of them out there, and then we would just kind of round table it. But yeah, go ahead. Tell us more what you think about Flash.
So I do agree with you, Utah. I definitely think that it is good that he got a little bit more screen time, I guess, in terms of his background. But one thing that I wish that they would have delved deeper into is, for me, since I'm a noob, I don't know why his father is in prison. Mm-hmm. I know that he was wrongly convicted, but what actually happened to get him in there? And why, since this is something that Barry Allen is obviously so passionate about, to the point where he is literally studying criminal justice. He's trying, as he said at the end, I'm trying to get he said, I got my foot in the door. I want to know what actually got him there. Mm-hmm. And for, obviously his mom isn't in his life. So how long has his dad even been in jail? Because he has his own place. He was working three jobs, nothing steady, obviously, because he's the Flash.
He's got all that computer tech equipment. How did he afford all that if he is trying to get a job and his dad's in prison?
How did he get the materials for his suit? Bruce Wayne went through all the cool space shuttle type, stuff. Like,
We don't know why Flash is smart. Like we don't know any of that stuff yet. But that's going to come out in the movie.
I feel like
I feel like they're teasing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But I get that. But I'm just saying, like, you know, they did delve deeper into Wonder Woman, even though she had her own movie. I don't think at that time, but you know, they went deeper into Cyborg, which personally I would love to see a Cyborg movie, but that's just me. And there's just small things that I wish they would have done with Flash, because he is such a great character. You know, he does add that comedic relief to it. And when he said, like, there's so much radiation that you can grow an extra foot out of your neck, I literally cracked up, because it was just like one of those random things that I was not expecting. But yeah, so that's what I thought of Flash. I don't know if you want me to still talk about it.
Well, I'll throw something in about Flash too then, and then we'll go into Cyborg. We'll just do it that way. My big thing about Flash, I thought that the saving her and putting the hot dog in his pocket, like that was really funny.
Yeah.
Like there's some really cool stuff in there. But even that was too slow.
Oh my gosh!
I'm like, dude, just do it. Like,
yes.
But anyway, that's fine. It was still fine. I'm just being, you know me, I'm just being goofy about it. But I love that bit about it. But you know, the thing about him being the comic relief is, my personal opinion was that they took it. It didn't work every time. Like sometimes it worked and it was really funny and I'm like endearing, and other times it was like, this guy is annoying. And that was, so that I felt like,
I feel like that was on purpose too, though.
in the Justice League, the original one, I believe,
Justice League.
yeah, that it was like that too. Like he was, I don't know, kind of
too hard.
Yeah, but that movie had more humor, which was part of its problem actually. So some of it was so bad.
That was obviously Whedon.
And they pulled that out and made this movie more serious. So it made it that much more jarring, I guess, in some of the scenes when he's trying to be funny. And I'm like, nope, this didn't work here. Like it's the wrong time. Like the tone isn't right for that joke yet. You know what I mean? Like do it, like wait a beat or something. I don't know. There were a lot of problems I felt like with the humor, but that aside, I thought it was really great. The only thing that throws me off, and if there's any big DC Flash fans out there, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with everybody right now, and you guys know this, and probably some people who've listened, but if you're new, I'm a Marvel guy. I mean, I just am. I grew up Marvel, love Marvel. DC and Superman were the only two Superman and Batman were the only two DC characters I really even cared about as a kid. So I had tons of Batman comics, a few Superman, I love the Christopher Reeve movies. Like that was my Superman. But other than that, DC, it was just not my thing, and not a knock to it. It's just, I didn't care for it. And so there's Green Lantern, Flash, Martian Manhunter, these other characters, if they weren't on the Justice League cartoon, which I watched, or the Super Friends. No one even called the Justice League cartoon. Super Friends. Yeah. If they weren't on there. So I'm wondering where the Wonder Twins are and Gleek or but that was my exposure to DC. So I'm gonna admit that I am a little bit ignorant about how some of his powers work and things like that. I want to know how, when he's running in circles around that city at the end, super fast, right?
Keeping that right.
And trying to get up that charge. He's moving faster than the speed of light. He's moving, whatever speed he's moving. Again, I don't know how fast it is. I don't know the science. This is why I'm asking you guys, the fans, the ones who know, to help me out here.
You're wondering how he got
How does he talk to them in regular speed?
And how did he get shot? Just like you just said.
Well, the shot was a complete accident, right? The guy's just trying to time it and kept shooting it, and he just managed to hit him. So I'm okay with that. I get that. But I don't understand how he's moving so fast and talking normally. He's like, I can't hold this, guys. And they're like, okay, Flash. Like, wouldn't he, like, is he moving his mouth really slow and it's coming out normal for us? Like, how is
come on,
normal
Jeff.
Speech coming through to these? I know it's stupid, right? But it's bugging me. I want to know.
Do you talk faster or a higher pitch when you run versus when you walk?
I'm so out of breath I can't even talk, right? But he's actually breaking.
That's a different issue.
But he's actually moving. Yeah, I'm out of breath just after finishing that sentence. So don't even get me started on running. But you know, do you know what I'm saying though? Like he's actually
I hear
breaking
you.
breaking sound barriers and stuff.
He's breaking
but
the
just
laws of
talking
physics.
normally, right?
Hey, look,
That's what I'm talking about. No, if he was just running really fast, I get it. But he's, you know what I mean? Like he's
already
moving at a
breaking the
speed
laws of physics.
that they can't see him, but they can hear him fine. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I don't know. That's
They all have.
it's a
earpieces.
weird thing.
They
I
all
just
have
sometimes I
earpieces.
have to know these things. And again, and I'm only asking now. I can suspend disbelief and not care, and I do, right? But part of me also wants to know: is this a canon? Like, is there an explanation? Is this a thing? Because you know, sometimes they do. They, you know, they're like,
Mix
oh, well,
things up.
yes, he's able to blah blah blah, or when he's doing this, he's in a bubble that doesn't feel time and can talk normal. I don't know. Maybe there's an explanation. That's why I'm asking. I'm not trying to poke holes and say, "Oh, Flash,
Right.
Flash sucks." No, that's not what I'm saying. I want to understand. I'm not a DC, you know, guy, and I
Right,
don't.
so you
I've
don't
never
know.
read the Flash lore. I don't know what it is. I know.
Maybe they explain it somewhere.
Yeah, I would love to know that. Right, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, you know,
that's
I mean,
why I'm
if it-
asking. Yeah.
They're definitely, you know, like you said, you've got to suspend your disbelief a bit in any of these superhero movies, right? Like, the whole first off, the whole opening sequence of Superman screaming in slow motion. Number one, I didn't think needed to be all in slow motion.
That was another scene that was way too long.
That
One,
took
we already
forever.
saw most of it
Right, yeah, right.
because it
Two,
was
I
in
mean,
the Batman versus Superman, right?
It didn't have to be slow motion. All of it did not have to be
just
slow
like,
motion. And my other
oh
thing
my
was, okay, so
gosh.
he's screaming. So how did the mother box underwater hear it?
Yeah, he's a super screen.
How did the sound is going up and out, not I guess he's Superman. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an odd explanation for why everything. But again, it's one of those I'm like, okay, whatever. But that was a very
Well,
odd explanation at the beginning. Like,
I did like the fact that now they gave us an actual reason as to why the mother boxes woke up, because we never got a reason.
there's no Kryptonian, but there wasn't
only
one for
two.
5,000 years before that.
Only two woke up, not all three.
Right.
Right. Well, and then the other thing is, okay, so
Well, because the humans knew that you don't just put it in a stronghold or and under guard. You bury it in a hole or keep it in a closet.
That's not even 6 feet deep. Okay, so like that was my other thing. Was like, okay, so the Atlanteans do this huge little like temple underwater, and there's guards and everything that's on a pedestal, and the Amazons have this huge thing with these big huge solid doors and vaults and everything, and men, we just bury it like 3 feet under the ground.
And, it cuts over to the men, and they're like, "Yep, that's deep enough."
Like, what is this?
That was pretty funny. But you'll notice that after all is said and done,
That was
the bad
last one to
guys
wake
had
up.
the hardest time finding the one that the
was the
humans
last one to
hit.
wake up. I'll give you
And
that.
the whole time it was in Cyborg's closet. And then he tried to bury it too.
He did bury it.
Which
And then he dug it
again
up
was a
again.
scene that made no sense because he buried it and literally 5 minutes later he's got it. He went back and got it. I'm like, why did he bury it then? I don't even know.
Well,
Was
I
it
mean,
just
it makes
temporarily
sense,
trying to
right?
hide it, I
Maybe he
guess?
changed-
No.
Maybe he changed his mind.
He did because he wanted to show it to them, but it was just
Yeah.
funny.
But I thought that it was interesting that he buried it at his gravesite, right? And then it was also beneficial that he buried it, considering the fact that once he took it, his dad got taken and his room rummaged through.
That's true.
So
that would be and that was his reason, was he wanted
Yeah.
to get his father back. That's true. That's true.
So-
was
so-
there slow motion in the movie?
so let's talk-
There was slow motion. It's a Zack
Yeah.
Snyder movie. There was slow motion.
oh
I
my
think,
gosh,
I think he might be being sarcastic because we keep talking about it, but
Oh yeah. I'm going to do the rest of the podcast in slow motion.
please don't.
please don't. I'm leaving. I'm going to take a nap.
So let's get into Cyborg's backstory then, and we'll go with you, Allea, first. Tell us a little bit about Cyborg's backstory and what you thought.
Every time you say my name, it's like I just get
You get frozen. I apologize.
yeah. No, it's okay.
Should we call you something else?
No, I'm mentally trying to prepare myself for what I want to say. So for all of you that are listening, in case you didn't know, I am a newbie when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So,
Well, and that's why we want your opinion. That's why you're here.
That's why you're here.
right? I appreciate
You're not
that.
blinded by nostalgia.
True. Honestly, I loved Cyborg's background, and I'm not sure how old he is, but obviously he's like high school, college age, right? Probably just graduated high school, getting ready to go on to college. Could have played professional football or at least college football, something along those lines.
I think college football.
Yeah, and same thing with
he played for Gotham City University,
right?
Or Gotham City College. So,
and same thing with Flash. So they are both very young
adults. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, there is a intelligence difference between Cyborg and Flash, but with Cyborg, one of the things that I definitely resonated with was his relationship with his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I originally interpreted it was he was in high school. And most, high schoolers, even if he's in college, right? But I think that he was in high school because he was talking about like changing someone's grades and things like that. It's not always the best, right? You don't always have the best relationship with your parents. And even with him specifically, obviously his parents are geniuses. And he wants that relationship with his dad. And then, ultimately probably has to go through that trauma of either blaming himself for his mom's death or blaming his dad, which we see that he blames his dad. I just really appreciated the fact that they did go deeper into Cyborg because I didn't really know that much about him. Even when I would watch Teen Titans or Teen Titans Go, whatever. I think it's Teen Titans Go, the one that has him in there. It doesn't really show his past. It's just goofy characters. And yeah, I do appreciate it. I thought that his background was very sad. Who would want to he almost died and his dad was like, I don't want to lose you as well as my wife, and I'm gonna turn you into a cyborg, which yeah, it's really sad.
I'm gonna take this weird box. I have no idea what it is, but we're gonna make it. I know it'll help you, and let's see what it does to you.
Right.
Yeah, which is like,
come on now.
That was a little much.
Any father would take an unknown alien technology.
I mean, he had he was trying to learn it, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff in this movie. And again, grain of salt. I just kind of like, whatever. This is comics like that. A lot of stuff you just suck it up and enjoy it, right? But I do wonder how did he know that was gonna even work? Like what had he figured out already? But we just don't know. But yeah, it was interesting to see.
Why is it that whenever he did that, I feel like whenever he used the box originally, he was generating, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, a lot of power in order to, create Cyborg as Cyborg.
Yeah.
Why didn't it wake up then, but it woke up?
Yeah. Well, again, their explanation, I think, comes from the fact that there's no, because if you remember at the beginning of the moment, Steppenwolf says no Green Lanterns and no Kryptonians. So what does this mean? That means that the Kryptonian had died. Here's the problem. He'd only been there for about 30 years.
He wasn't
what was going on the other 5,000 years this thing sat under the ground and sat with the Atlanteans and sat with the Amazonians? Were there Green Lanterns around? Are they really going to say that it was Ryan Reynolds that kept this thing at bay all this time? And even he was only there for 30 years. Do you know what I mean? So there's a real fast and loose with these. There's some significant plot holes with these mother boxes or the infinity boxes or the mother stones, whatever you want to call them, that the bad guy has to try to get to put them together to take over the world and do something terrible.
I've had enough of these mother frickin' boxes in this mother frickin' movie.
Yeah. But yeah, to me, the mother box thing is a huge plot hole because of that. But again, I'm not going to throw the whole movie out with that particular baby, right? Like, I think it's annoying. It annoys me. It nags at me. And I'd love to hear if anyone out there in the audience has an explanation for what was going on in that 5,000 years that suddenly Superman woke it up by being dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, or or maybe just his scream woke it up, and
Right.
maybe it had nothing to do with the fact that he was dead, but the fact that he was dying. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
Like, it's
maybe-
weird.
Maybe it was
Here's the other major plot hole, though. Let me throw this out there. As long as we're on this subject, I don't want to forget. The other major plot hole that drives me crazy is Darkseid comes to, first of all, and let's take a quick break. We'll put a pin in Cyborg's backstory because I love his story and I still want to talk about it.
Okay.
So pin, bing, there it is. And let's rewind. That opening battle, right? That whole Lord of the Rings epic
versus
battle with
Darkseid was
Zeus
pretty good.
and
That's pretty cool.
and the Amazonians,
and
Atlanteans,
Ares.
and Ares, and
Who looked like
Darkseid.
Ares from the Wonder Woman movie.
And then Thor comes at him with the axe and didn't go for the head and got him in the shoulder instead. And they, sorry. It was whoever that was. Got Thanos in the neck and they started dragging him. No, it was Darkseid. Anyway,
movie.
I'm sorry. I'm just picking on them for having almost the exact same battle that Endgame had. But anyway, all that aside, that's not the plot hole. Get ready. They drag Darkseid onto the ship, and they fly away defeated. And it's like, oh my gosh, we were defeated, right?
Right.
And the mother boxes are still there.
Yep.
Steppenwolf comes back. It's 5,000 years later or whatever, and he's like, Darkseid, I found the planet. I'm like, what? Like, this is the planet that you went to, got your butt kicked on, left your most important valuables behind, and you forgot where it was for 5,000 years? What happened to Darkseid
I'm going to
that
give
made that amnesia happen?
Well, scientific.
Please explain. I'm happy to.
So there are two things I'll give you. Scientific medical fact: if you take an axe about 3 inches into the shoulder,
But all the other people were there with them.
it severs a memory nerve here.
Is
and
that
you
what it
forget
is?
Everything
Oh
for the
my
last
gosh.
half hour. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's getting pretty deep over there. Keep shoveling. I got no.
The thinnest explanation I have is the fact that he did Steppenwolf. I remember Steppenwolf did specify, "I have found the anti-life equation."
Yes, but that's not what he was there for. That's the other thing
Darkseid
too.
was there Darkseid
Right?
was just there to wreck
He was the one
havoc.
that created it, though.
You wanna-
He literally created
No,
this.
no, it was already there. He slapped his hammer
Oh.
down and it woke it up or did it. You know, and made it come out. Like that's the thing. But no. First of all, let's talk about that he had to keep checking in on Zoom with Desaad, right, to make sure that by the way, I'm still here and I got one, but it's cut those, right? We only need the one where he tells them about anti-life. That's another place we could cut to make the movie shorter. So let's get rid of those. And that second one is the one that's more important, the third one, whatever, where he tells them about anti-life, right? That's the one that matters. Darkseid's like, huh?
That's the
now
one
he's
where
like, oh,
Darkseid
wait,
actually
what?
comes in.
Yeah. So that one is important. But again, they've been looking all over the universe for the mother boxes, going to all these worlds that they have conquered because they can't remember which one they left them on. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm looking for an explanation from the big fans who just want to go deeper and really know this. I'm blank. I got nothing. Like, why does he not know? So for me, that's a huge plot hole. Again, still enjoyed the film, but that's a problem.
See, none of this would have happened if the mother boxes were Apple products. If they were iMother boxes, you could use Find My iMother box.
Right?
On
All they
your
have to
phone.
do is well, that's the other thing. They're advanced civilization. Can they not? Do they not have like GPS on these things somehow that they could literally find exactly where they are and not come and send out parademons to sniff for it? Like they would just be like, there it is.
Sometimes a dying Kryptonian is not convenient to find.
Apparently not.
Yeah, but also
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I feel like they could have done that heat. What is it that his dad sacrificed his life for? They literally could have just done that heat ray or whatever.
Oh, yeah. He superheated the core of the mother box so they could find it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why wouldn't they have done that in the beginning? And also considering the fact that it is fire that literally the box reacts with fire. It blends with fire. He's like the devil. That's what I thought he was. He literally has all of this fire. I don't.
Steppenwolf?
Yeah, aren't
Yeah.
they? I feel like they're like
They're like demons. Well, his
residents
little
of
minions
hell,
are
right?
called
Like-
parademons. Yeah.
right. Like
And Steppenwolf is kind of an advanced demon on his own.
Yeah, that
Who looks
basically, I think.
who looked great compared to the Justice League Steppenwolf, but also I couldn't help but think of the Destroyer from the first Thor every time he was on screen.
And the what is that character race in Dragon Age with the
Oh,
horns?
Yes,
That's what I kept thinking of.
Yeah,
like that's what I thought of the first time I saw him in the first movie. Anyway, so let's go back to Cyborg though. I want to make sure we don't
Cyborg.
lose the thread. So I don't remember who was talking, but Cyborg's backstory is fleshed out. I'll just give my opinion real quick because it's real short. It was amazing. Like this really, like, again, I don't know what went on between Joss Whedon and Ray Fisher, right? Like there was clearly some bad blood going on there, whatever. Yeah. And I don't know if whatever that bad blood was came in the fact that he basically cut
in the editing.
everything that had anything to do with Cyborg out of that movie because Cyborg, other than the fact that he looks like a Michael Bay Transformer, and I can't get past that. I hate that.
I don't like his design.
I don't like how sharp and pointy he is. Like that's too weird.
Yeah,
that's too much.
Faceted,
like they want too much techie and just smooth him out. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, besides the fact,
Teen Titans Go Cyborg.
Besides his look, I absolutely adored this story. Like, and I don't feel like we need another movie to tell us that because we've gotten there. But I'd love to see like his, a cyborg adventure, right, of some sort. Yeah. But yeah, this I thought he had the coolest backstory, the most well fleshed out, the way they told the story from the football game, his dad's missing, in the car with the mom, and from the camera angle, you're like, oh, they're gonna get hit. It's like every movie when they get that angle in a car, there's gonna be another car coming the other direction. Yep. But yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was just so. And then so in the first one, all we saw was the dad using the mother box to make him into a robot. Yep. That was it. And then it meant so much more. And when he's talking to him on that tape recorder and he says, I said it was going to be short and here I go. But now
we know you well enough.
I'm just remembering now when he goes and he plays that tape recorder and he's telling him the science behind what happened. And then he says, and now I'm going to talk to you as a dad. Crush. Oh, like as a dad, like my heart broke. Siri, shut up. We're not talking to you. I don't know how that keeps happening. Siri thinks that we're talking to her. I don't know. Siri, what did you think of Cyborg's part, Siri? No.
Cyborg is not liking what you're saying. No.
I know. Cyborg's like taking over my phone and making Siri. No, that crushed me, that moment. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he's never going to know what he said. Yeah. I won't spoil the ending and whether he found out what he said, but that was just really, really. And then when he has to go get his dad, and then when his dad sacrifices himself, at one point
in front of him.
Yeah, sorry, spoilers, but we did say it was going to be spoilers. I don't care. Libby and I were watching it, and we're like, "Why did he do that? This sucks. That was the stupidest. He didn't even slow the process down. Like Steppenwolf's already there. This is stupid. What a pointless death. This is Zack Snyder. You're a failure. This is the worst movie I've ever seen." And then they explained it.
Later.
Yeah, they took too long to explain it because by then I was ready to turn off the TV. I was so mad. I was so mad that he was dead. I really was.
Well, all that was slow motion until they explained it. So.
Exactly. But then they explained it, and all was well, and it was cool, and it was sacrificial, and I was okay with it. But yeah, Cyborg's backstory was the best part, and there's and Flash's, when you combine the two of them together, again, we were talking about the dad issues that they both had. Yeah. Allea used the right word earlier about resonating, like, and how that resonated from like the Winter Soldier story and stuff. Like this part really, both of their stories really resonated with me when it came to the dad relationships and how they had to like overcome that. And again, Whedon had none of that for either character, for any character. There was like no emotional connection to anyone in that movie. Nobody.
No.
I didn't care about Superman. No. I didn't care about Batman. I didn't care, like nobody. I was emotionally connected to both of them because I knew why they were fighting, and that made it all the better. So
No,
I'll let you
I
guys
totally
finish
agree.
up on Cyborg, and then we'll go and move on to number 3.
No, I totally agree. Cyborg was obviously the character that got the shortest stick in the Justice League.
Big time.
And you know, and I can't help but think that the contentious relationship between Ray Fisher and Joss Whedon might have had something to do with it. But then again, you look, like you said, you look at the rest of the Justice League, and it was very obvious that Joss Whedon's main goal wasn't to develop these characters to make you care for them. He just wanted to make like another. I feel like he just tried to make another quippy Avengers movie with characters that didn't fit in that genre, or you know, in that kind of environment, because he's taking stuff that Zack Snyder did and trying to lighten it up and throw in quips, and then you get that jarring juxtaposition of Zack Snyder's serious clip and then Aquaman sitting on the lasso of truth having his little confession, and then
Oh, God.
then back to Zack Snyder's dark
And basically like harassing Wonder Woman, like, you know.
it just, yeah, I mean, it like I said, it was like two different movies kind of just spliced together. So Cyborg story, absolutely tragic. And, you know, like you said, he blames his father for his mother's death, and he holds on to that. Even, you know, that's why he crushed the tape recorder. That's why he's always had this contentious relationship. And then he blames him even further for making him into what he feels like is a monster. And to have to deal with that and come to terms with what he is and who he is, and then to see his father make the ultimate sacrifice right in front of him. Now he's blaming himself for that. And then he finally gets kind of closure by finally listening to the rest of the tape recording. I mean, that absolutely made Cyborg probably my favorite character in this movie because of everything that they invested into his story. And it definitely made me root for him more than any of the characters in the Justice League. So so I'm glad, I'm very happy for those changes. But it's obvious that, you know, between the slow motion and that all that time concentrating on the backstory, that does add to the length of the movie. And I'm sure Whedon was told by the studios it can't be more than 2 hours.
Sure. All right. Did you have more to say about Cyborg, Allea?
I don't think so.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, I might.
Helmet when he flew, that was cool.
Yeah, that was a little Iron Man-y for me. Is that what you just said? Iron Man?
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
The only difference was like that eye, you know?
Yeah.
This is one eyeball. But I was also thinking, like, how do you see? You literally only have one eye.
He's a cyborg. He can see whenever he wants, whatever.
This is an eye over here too, right? He's got a cybernetic eye and a regular eye.
Yeah.
And they both work together somehow. That science I'm okay with.
Right. But how the heck?
but the thing is the Iron Man mask thing was interesting to me because he only used it when he's like going to smash through stuff. And he only has one fleshy bit left, and that's his face right here on this side. So he's got to have something to protect that. It occurred to me that like when he smashes through stuff, everything else on him is just like boom, and this side of his face is like all scarred and scratched up because he has to cover it somehow. So I actually liked that aspect. It made sense to me.
You know, is it weird that I thought like one of the very first things that I thought about was whenever Barry Allen asked Batman what was his superpower, and he said that I'm rich. And I thought, I wondered if Stark and Batman were like friends or something, like in a different life, you know?
Yeah, I would like to see that crossover. They probably did business together.
I'm sure if there was a crossover and it was the same universe, I mean, they had to run in the same circles, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So.
The rich people circles.
It was like a very random thought, but I just thought about it. It was like, I wonder if they would like know each other in a you know,
absolutely
different universe or something like that.
Yeah, they know each other.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 3.
All right, so finally, I just want to talk about the kind of the ending, right? So we want to talk about two things when it comes to the ending. There was, there's the big major battle, which had a lot of changes from the original, I think for the better. Yep. And then the epilogue. So we'll talk about the epilogue last, but so let's go into that battle and just talk about some of the changes to that that were so different. The first thing that I noticed that was very different, and again, this was a benefit, I think, was that Russian family that Joss Whedon put in there.
Yeah.
Nothing about them.
Not part of any of it at all.
Which I think was fine because it kept like coming and it was
I
all
didn't-
it was all for a little joke at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like they didn't like there was nothing.
It made no sense to me in the Justice League.
He was trying to show that regular folk were imperiled, I think. But come on, the whole freaking planet is imperiled. If they don't figure this out, like we're all dead. Like I don't need to know that this Russian family is in danger.
I don't think
Well, I don't
the
remember
family
this
raised the
Russian
stakes at
family.
all.
Oh, it's in the original one. Yeah, there's a Russian family that's like in the vicinity of what all the chaos that's happening, and
they
we
hint
see
that
how
there's a whole they
in
hint that there's
danger.
a whole apartment building too. It's not just a
Yeah.
Russian family. Like
Yeah.
Superman saves a whole apartment building.
Yeah, it was
So,
it was
that was
unnecessary.
I didn't. Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about that final battle. What did you guys think?
I think within context of the whole 4-hour movie, with all the backstory improvements, I felt more invested in the characters fighting. I felt like
The stakes felt a little
right,
more
the stakes
real.
felt more real. You know, like okay, now I understand why this is important to them to fight this battle that I didn't get in Justice League. I thought that the pacing was better. I enjoyed the whole fight in general better. There are still some things that bother me. Like I just don't like Aquaman like body surfing down the building and then kind of and all.
When you say body surfing, he's surfing on someone else's
he's
body.
surfing on the Parademon's body. He's not right.
It was
When he
very
just-
Legolas down the trunk
down
of
the stairs on the shield.
But I'm thinking when he slid down the trunk of that
on that-
Oliphant or whatever they're called.
Yeah, that's true.
Back into the battle. That was exactly what popped into my head. It was Legolas. I was like, "Whoa, what's happening?"
Yep.
Yeah, it was
But I
kind
thought the
of
pacing. I liked. I feel like there was a couple of scenes where Wonder Woman originally was by herself fighting Steppenwolf, and it was nice to see that there was a lot more teamwork involved, a lot more, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Batman sort of fighting Steppenwolf, whereas I felt like it was just kind of one-on-one with Wonder Woman and Steppenwolf. I liked that. I loved Superman's entrance in this one better.
oh my gosh, so much better,
I mean,
much better line, like
What did he
everything
say?
about it.
He said, "I'm
Everything
not really
about-
impressed."
Yeah, he's like not
Like,
impressed.
Not impressed.
I'm like, that was cool.
perfect. And he didn't have like the funky upper
was
lip,
better.
too, which is a whole other issue with Justice League, is that we don't have the mushy, awful CGI removal of the mustache. because
Yeah, that was pretty.
Zack didn't need it. So overall, I thought the end battle was much better, and I love the ending of it. I thought
Yeah.
it was much more emphatic.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Kind of a middle finger to Darkseid, going, come
Yeah.
on, come at us. So, yeah, I thought it was much better.
To me, when Steppenwolf's head rolls through the portal at the Darkseid's feet,
Yeah.
and they show Darkseid's face, at that moment I was like, that's why I forgot about this place.
Right, exactly. Like,
Yeah, it's these
oh.
people like this. That's who lives here. That's right. That's,
Yep.
wipe this from the GPS, Desaad. We're not coming back here again. No, yeah, that's what it felt. No, I'm joking, obviously. But yeah, that was a huge moment. It was so cool. Obviously gorier than anything that
Well, it was
occurred
rated
in the
R,
original. Yep. That's another thing. Do you really think it needed to be R? I felt like everything that happened was to those
your
parademons.
audience, maybe.
I'll be honest.
It was
with you.
black. It wasn't really like blood. It was like,
Yeah,
and so I felt like you could have gotten away with a PG-13, but there were a lot of F-bombs and
It's
some
the
other
F-bombs
language.
that get the
I
rating.
feel
Yeah.
like honestly, it could have been like mature audience or something. Just
Right. Well, they needed a theatrical rating because I think they're going to put it back in theaters for sure. It's going to hit IMAX as soon as they're open. It will be in theaters. They're going to make money off this, and people will go see it.
There'll be enough. There will. I think you're right. I think there's plenty of an audience that will spend the money to go see it in IMAX to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Well, one
Go
of the
ahead.
things that I did like was that I liked the fact that they had Wonder Woman standing up against Steppenwolf.
Oh my gosh.
Like as a woman, it is great to see, a fellow woman out there just like holding her own, and they even like made her like, oh, Steppenwolf tried to, use that whole mind game manipulation to, get her to
He tried to diminish her.
yeah, absolutely. And she was just like, no, I'm not having it. One thing, and this is just because I don't really remember remember Wonder Woman, is whenever whenever he was saying, you should have been there whenever I like slaughtered your entire race,
Oh yeah, the
right?
gift trip.
Yeah. I don't really remember that because in the beginning, her people were all fine, blah blah blah, and then they weren't. So I don't really remember that like correlation that he was.
He definitely took out a lot of Amazonians.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
both versions, but this one
I
goes
know.
even further.
This one was even further though, because in this one, that whole temple
Yeah.
looked like it was designed to collapse.
Yeah,
on
they
top of
collapsed it
everybody.
in order to try to
Yeah.
protect.
Right, and then when he went after the mother box, he was swinging that axe left and right.
Yeah.
I remember,
And-
but don't you remember like that all of those Amazonians just coming down that hill? Whenever he said that, it made me think that I like missed an entire scene at first.
Right.
Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
should have been there whenever I took out your entire race. Something along those lines.
Well, he also said her mother, right? But she was still alive, so he was just.
Alive.
I
Yeah,
think
he
he was
was-
just playing
trying
mind
to get
games.
her eyes. Yeah.
Something else that I also liked that I wasn't sure that they did in the Justice League one was that like how she sends her mother I think sends the arrow and it goes into the temple. I can't think of what it
Artemis's arrow. Yeah.
Yes. So I like whenever she puts that arrow into the imprint of the other arrow and it just goes and it takes her through this like
Very Indiana Jones type of thing.
but also it's like in the whatever ancient language her ancient language. I don't know, I liked that scene for me because I'm not really that familiar with the whole Wonder Woman background, but I do appreciate her. I liked that. But I do, like I said, I appreciate that she was able to hold her own up against.
Oh my gosh! One of the things that we talked about in the roundtable with the Game Fix guys yesterday was how this movie, Wonder Woman is more of a badass than she is in her own movies combined.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Her own movies don't make her as awesome as she is in this movie. And don't get me wrong, I like the first movie. Don't get me started on the second. We've already talked about that on the show. But
There was a second movie.
oh no, there wasn't. Just forget about it. No, I'm just kidding.
I remember a second movie.
But I think this is a better Wonder Woman portrayal. Like we just really is not to knock the first Wonder Woman movie because again that was the introduction, and then this is like okay, this is who she is now.
Right.
Awesome. Like Wonder Woman 84, ridiculous. Like no.
Horrible.
Of course, we do find out that she's still pining for Steve. And this guy she only knew for 2 weeks, and she even in this movie she's still pining for Steve, and it's all these anyway. But no, when she headbutts Steppenwolf and he headbutts her,
whole
she headbutts him
exchange.
back, but then he headbutts her into the ground. I mean, of course, because he's Steppenwolf, he's got to be a little more powerful.
Right.
But I'm just like
exchange was
she
nice.
matches him, and she's the only one who can stand up against Superman during all of that. She's the only one who can stand up against Steppenwolf. Like I loved that aspect of it. She was so awesome. And just real quick, you mentioned that whole battle at the beginning. To me, the Amazonian battle with Steppenwolf. Libby and I were talking about this. That's the best part of the original movie. And they made it even better in this one. But I love that part of the movie. And my daughter Libby describes it like she's just like loves how like look how hard they will fight and sacrifice everything to keep that mother box out of, and it just keeps going. Like it's this game of like,
They
getting
keep
it
on
further and further
sacrificing
away
more
and he gets
and
closer
more
and they're
and
curving
more.
and more sacrifices being made. And it's like, this is life or death. And I did feel like that was the best part of the original. It's even better in this one.
One of the things. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of my favorite lines in that whole beginning is, when Steppenwolf says, talking about fear and failure, and Queen Hippolyta says, Amazons, what I don't even remember. What do we know about fear? And they all yell, "We have no fear!" And I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
One of the things that I am curious about, how she said, no matter what you do, keep it going. I'm curious now that I think about it, if they were trying to get it over the hill to where there's all of those other Amazonians.
Hey, is that a joke about my age? I'm just
where there's all of those other Amazonians because,
Well, I think you're right. I think I think at that point they knew all they had to do was to try and keep it. They're playing a game of keep away. Keep it away from Steppenwolf as long as they can before, so the Legion could come in and at least just out of sheer numbers.
That's what they're hoping for.
Right?
Yeah,
that's
it just didn't work out. Yeah.
What I also did like about the opening here was that in the Justice League, that last huge stone gate that comes down, all we see is like the two Amazonian women hold it for the Queen to slide under. And I'm like, why do that? Why would they design it that way when the first two were just hit the hammer, it down it went? And in this cut, we see why. Because she gets tripped up by a parademon. So she was delayed. And so they had to, I mean, you could see them, they look up and they actually hold up for their queen to escape, sacrificing themselves.
So great.
I mean.
What a great scene. That whole scene, just so great.
That whole thing was really well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, even the ending, I thought it was really good. I mean, the slow-mo, like we've said many times, it drove me insane at some points. Like I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, just get to the point, dude. Come on now. But I don't know. I appreciated the ending, and I like the fact that he put more effort or more work into like some of those smaller parts. You know, kind of like you were saying with the very beginning. You know, just so that way it will make sense. You know, I don't know. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the end scene.
No, you're right. I mean, it was very obvious that there were pieces missing from the Justice League, and those pieces put back into this 4-hour cut makes the whole narrative arc smooth and complete.
Don't forget the things that were taken out.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
the corny
they
lines,
took out
the stupid
quippy stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what Zack took out, which wasn't his, and the stuff that was his that he put back in, I mean, his vision was obviously much more cohesive than Joss coming in and trying to,
right.
You know,
and
pieces, parts.
It is probably very difficult, you know, coming into something that's
no
already,
question.
like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, it's hard when you have one person who has like a completely different sense of humor or a completely different vision or whatever than someone that has like, you know, another sense of humor that some people don't find funny. One thing that I did want to mention when we were talking about Flash's sense of humor and sometimes it wasn't necessary. Do you remember? Sorry, it smells like someone's burning in my house. So I like it threw me off for a second.
They're just heating up the mother box to make sure we can follow it. Don't worry about it.
There was like one scene. I think it was.
Was it him putting out the bat signal? I always that was one of my favorite Flash.
I actually like that line.
I was like, oh, is that the bat? Oh, that means that's your. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it was like one scene where he made like a joke. I think it's maybe whenever they're like deciding if they are gonna I'm not
gonna say it. Somebody else gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
I don't know. I can't remember. But he like made a joke and you could tell that he's smiling and nobody's laughing.
Right.
In this scene. Like you could tell he's smiling and he's like, oh, maybe that wasn't that funny. You know, but I was like, I don't think that was necessary. I can't remember the exact part, but there was specific aspects where it just didn't.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the one we need to move in the epilogue here shortly, but the funniest thing with Flash that I felt was the best funny thing was when he and Gordon were left standing alone. Gordon turns his back. What's hilarious about it is that Gordon turned his back. Flash didn't. He was standing there, and he still didn't notice that they all disappeared. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny. But no, I do overall think this was just such a better ending. It was so much more exciting. And one thing we haven't mentioned yet, which I want to make sure I say before we go into epilogue, was the wholly different change, which was that Flash couldn't bring up the charge, and instead had to turn back time. And he had to break the rule, and
he broke his rule. That's right.
He does that. He goes through again. I don't know the Speed Force language or whatever, but and he goes and he manages to give it the power. And then Cyborg's pulling him apart, and Superman jumps in there with him, and they're both pulling him apart. Like it took a team to do this, Yep. But at the end of the day, Flash is the hero. Flash saved the friggin' day. Up until that point, what had he done? He pushed Wonder Woman's sword towards her.
The sword.
and and kind of like move some guys out of the way, but mostly like he's just like, I'm here to electrify things so that they work better. Like you need power, I can run fast and point at them and they'll get power. That was his thing. And then at the end, he is the one that saves the whole thing. Like he's the R2D2 of that team. Like he's the real hero. Too. Yeah, exactly. And I mentioned that yesterday. It was like a Donner cut situation. I was like, he's running around the earth and spinning it. But, as much as I hate those kind of like, oh, just rewind time and fix everything, those get that can be so overdone. And I know it's a Flash thing to do. Yeah. But in this, oh man, it was so well done. And I was like, even though I had no clue what was happening, because again, I don't totally get this Speed Force stuff, but I know that he can do this, right? I know that he can, run so fast that he can end up in a different, time. Part of me did expect him to kind of peek out while he's running, is peek over and do the, it all depends on Lois to Bruce back in time somehow, like he was going to,
that's
from the other movie.
No, because he said that was a
different time.
Right. He said it was an epiphany or premonition.
I'll mention this when we talk about the epilogue because
shut up, Siri. But anyway, yeah. So I think that that whole thing was the best. That was so good to me. And then that leads us kind of into the epilogue, because my favorite part of the epilogue was when he goes to see his dad again, and he's like, I got my foot in the door, and the dad's so proud of him for getting his job, and he's like, look at my son, he's gonna get a job, he's gonna get me out of here, and he's so proud. He just saved the freaking world.
Saved the world. Yeah.
But this is what his dad is proud of. You know what I mean? Of course, because it's all he told him. But I'm just saying, like,
right, he doesn't know, right?
Like, that's what he wanted. That's all he wanted.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I loved about these, like. That, even though Barry Allen annoyed me at times, the awkward thing with the veterinarian or that dog place or wherever it was. Dog walking. That whole, where he's got the resume and it's all messed up. It was so awkward. And I was just so uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't like this. And I'm so frustrated for him. Oh yeah. I totally redeemed. Like, I just loved that moment. Like, I'm so proud of you, like this thing that you've done. And it's like, if I could only tell you what I really did, Dad, right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just, that he has that secret is just huge to me. Like, what a cool moment. I get goosebumps just even talking about it right now. That was really cool. But let's talk about some of the other epilogue, not the very last. We'll go into that very last.
We'll do the epilogue and then we'll do the last.
But let's say that very last thing, one of the things that could have been totally cut from this movie and cut the runtime again.
That wasn't necessary.
Totally unnecessary. Well, especially when at least for now, you may not be getting a second chance to make a sequel. Yeah. So let's go into that in a minute.
I'm going to pin my thought on that till the end.
Yeah, a couple of other things that happened in the epilogue. What do you guys think? Besides, the Flash one was my favorite thing.
The Flash thing was cool. I was going to say, and
Cyborg had a redemptive arc with his father too.
And did he what? Oh yes, he did.
He uses his power.
He put together the cassette player.
I didn't know that was a thing he could do, but okay.
And finally listened to his father.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yes, that was very cool. Those two father-son moments hit me hard too. And I mean, just the fact that there were these narrative arcs that were closed, that weren't even. I mean, I gotta say, we're not talking about the nightmare stuff yet, are we? I'm confused about which ending we're at.
So the whole epilogue was just all those little moments, right? That kind of like closed out. Like after the big battle, that kind of closed out. We saw Clark in the street.
Oh, that's right. And
how do they explain Clark is alive was a question we came up with yesterday. That's going to be interesting. But anyway, that's, true. That's for another movie.
Right. They buried Clark.
So Superman, he came back.
Everybody.
Yeah.
They explained to everybody that
Clark he just wasn't feeling well. We shouldn't have buried him. He was okay. He was fine. It happens.
He was just mostly dead.
Yeah, mostly dead.
Look,
but true love, Lois brought him back.
In a universe where people can't recognize a person,
right, because of the glasses,
glasses on or off.
Yeah, but his friends went to the funeral, right? Like he's buried in a regular cemetery, exactly. So we're assuming that this is just a regular funeral.
Yeah. So it's true.
But but also when he pulled his shirt off, he's still wearing the black suit. I thought that was stupid. I thought he should have done at that point he should have been back to the peace, hope, and love like this is
red-
we restored hope,
and blue.
and here I am. Like
Yeah.
that's the symbol he should have had.
Well,
But
and I
it's
feel
just
like
me.
I feel like the black suit was kind of unnecessary, just because they didn't.
I thought it was. I thought it worked very well with what they were doing there
I think
in the final battles. But at this
for
point,
those of us that
he
for
should
those
put his
of us
regular
that
one
know-
back on.
Yeah, for those of us that know what the black suit is, the whole regenerative suit, it actually amps up the recharging from the sun for him. Makes sense that he came out in the black suit and then his
Yeah.
final battle and that stuff.
But
for
when
people
they're
that don't know,
restoring hope that he's back, it's
yeah,
time
you
to
would
put
think
the other
that-
suit back
you would
on,
think
in my
that would be
opinion.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Yeah, it was nice that Bruce bought the bank.
Yeah. Well, that was
and
another thing. So as long as I'm pointing out things that are annoying in story, that don't make any sense, and why is this a thing? We saw Ma Kent, and we saw besides the Martian Manhunter pretending to be Ma Kent
Right.
doesn't make
I don't
any
know-
sense.
I don't know why that. Yeah.
That made no sense. But don't get me wrong, I'm glad Martian Manhunter was introduced, but it didn't make sense in that context to me. It was just weird. It could have easily been Martha. But what we determined yesterday was that he was manipulating it so that Lois would come back would know, or would because he knew Superman was coming back. And if that's the case, then why didn't he join them in the battle?
Right. Why was
Just
he
going to
sitting
say,
back? Yeah.
just
why
going
was
to
he sitting
say,
back?
why didn't you come to the battle? Anyway, but that being said, we saw Ma Kent pulling away in a U-Haul with all the stuff. She left that house. But when Lois and Clark go there, there's still stuff in the
furniture.
house, including a box full of
shirts.
Clark's shirts. What
Yeah.
is going on? Thankfully, he had a shirt, right? Because otherwise, he's just going to be shirtless for the rest of this period until he gets
I got
back there
nothing
to
wrong
get a
with
suit.
that. I don't think there's anything
No,
wrong with
but I think Lois is like, cover up, Clark. It's time to, people are
I
watching.
did find it interesting that change in that line, because in the Justice League it was "you smell good," and Clark says, "Did I not before?" And in this cut it's "you spoke," and then he asks, "Did I not before?"
Yeah,
Why did Joss change that? I don't think that line is
It's
any
interesting.
funnier because of it.
no.
Well, I don't think that one was necessarily like for comedic relief, but I think that it was more so it's taking him a while to get to where to figure out why he's here, like what's going on, and you even like with his
It's just an interesting
eyesight and
change.
everything, Yeah,
It's an
right.
interesting line change. There's very different lines.
Yeah.
So in the final epilogue, right? The dream, the nightmare sequence
The nightmare sequence.
that was completely unnecessary. It gives us a real strains of injustice, where Superman has gone bad because of something that happened to Lois. We assume because of the
Based on the
line
show
from Flash. And then something's happened to Arthur, so Aquaman doesn't make it in this future.
Wonder
Sorry,
Woman,
Jason
something
Momoa.
happens to Wonder Woman.
If they make this movie, you're not going to be in it. I guess you now know that. But yeah, and the whole scene with Joker, completely unnecessary. Don't get me wrong. I feel like it was a bone thrown to Jared Leto to finally let him kind of like be the Joker and not that weird club kid with the grill and the tattoos Joker that he was. Because don't get me wrong, with all the problems the Suicide Squad had, I don't think Jared Leto was the problem. I liked his Joker. I didn't like what he looked like. Like it didn't look like it was a different portrayal of Joker. But I thought his performance was fine. I liked the way he kind of did the role. So they wanted to give him a little bit of that in this, and this was a little more mix of Heath Ledger. Even in the
All of them
look,
kind of combined, right?
yeah, it combined and yeah, so it was interesting, but totally unnecessary.
I think,
that could have been another movie for another time. It did not belong here.
I feel
It
like
was a waste of time.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the nightmare, the actual final ending sequence with a nightmare, and that little thing at the end was unnecessary. If anything, just because these are snippets and hints at stuff that probably won't be made.
Right.
I mean, it's very obvious that this is obviously Zack Snyder's vision of what he wanted. He's always said
He's trying to get people to drool over it and want it,
Right,
and,
right.
and
He's
hopefully
basically kind of like
convince DC to do it.
Right. He's like he wants another hashtag. Well, hashtag
Restore the Snyderverse.
Restore the
I think.
Snyderverse is already out there, right? So that's exactly what he was doing. And I mean, I appreciate that he wanted to complete his vision and share it with the world. But at the same time, if part of your vision is the hints and the peaks at the second and third Justice League movies that you were wanting to make, which includes a whole bunch of stuff based on the storyboards that Jim Lee drew for him, including Lois's son, who is not necessarily Clark's son.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of interesting story there that he had planned out.
I'm glad. I hope they don't ever go that direction.
But,
that's gonna
right.
make me...
I mean, so I feel like all that was totally unnecessary. Was it neat to watch? Was it great to see that Joker and that Batman, actually spar verbally at the very least? Yes, that was very cool. And
it could have happened, and it's because they never got to make the Batman movie with Batfleck,
Right.
which I wanted to see.
I really wanted to see that, and that's not going to happen. So this is the closest thing that we got. I found out today that because of scheduling, Jared Leto and Ben Affleck were not acting opposite each other.
Oh, really?
They had
That's
to film
interesting.
them. They filmed them separately, and then in editing, put the whole thing together.
Yeah, but for me, it was very confusing. Like it didn't make any sense. I was thinking, like, why is this happening? Like, and then obviously because we know, right? Because he already said, Batman or Affleck already said that he had a premonition, of Flash, I think, telling him about Lois, right?
And you noticed Flash in that nightmare sequence was wearing the same suit of armor that he was in Batman v Superman when he came from the future and said, Lois, she's the key.
Right, and there was also like another, I don't remember if it was in that part of the epilogue, but there was like a comment that said like, in what universe, something, something, something. I don't remember the rest of that line, but it was something.
Yeah. The Joker did hint at, the Joker did hint at alternate timelines, right? He said, I wonder if there's a universe or a world where, you don't mess it up, Batman, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking like, what in the heck? What is going on? Like, what happened? So for me, someone that's not really that familiar with the Batman storyline, what happened?
No, it's confusing.
It's very
even for me, and I know a little bit about like the Injustice games and stuff where Superman goes nuts. I know, so I've read some stuff because Superman I was a little bit into. I've read this stuff where he turns bad and why and things like that. So there's a lot of reason. And then the new Suicide Squad game that's coming out this year is going to deal with that as well, where Superman goes bad.
Yeah.
But even people who kind of know those kind of still have no idea why it was in this movie.
But the thing that's even crazier to me was like, they did this scene about Lex Luthor, right? Then I was like,
don't get Jeff started on.
I know, but I was just like, I was confused. Like, okay, I can understand where they were going with that, right? Like
Oh, that's right, because that scene on the boat was still in this cut, right?
Right, and they mentioned Lex Luthor a lot throughout the movie. So I was like, oh, okay, I could understand that. But the guy that had the eye patch, right?
Deathstroke.
But it looked like that was the same guy that was there.
It was him.
That was.
And I was thinking, like, wait, what is going on? I thought that he originally wanted to kill him, and then now that you know, like,
so doesn't that make you wonder
that this is Bruce
why
Wayne.
he's there? Why are they on the same team?
Why did they? Yeah, they obviously they made up. They didn't fight, or they did fight, but they don't.
They did fight, but they made
up. That is a thing that happens in the comics. Where Deathstroke is a bad guy, but he sometimes is a good guy, and it's all not a good guy, but what I mean.
He
just
does mercenary,
like
good stuff.
But it was like still kind of confused. I also really wanted to like. I was looking to see more about Darkseid. I was looking to see like his ship coming and landing on Earth and blah blah blah.
No, that's Endgame. That's Thanos.
Yeah.
I know, but that's what I was looking for, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what I thought was gonna." I honestly thought that was gonna be the ending, but then this dream was just random.
And this is I'm glad you're bringing this up because, we talked earlier about like this is why you're here because you're like I'm a noob, and I'm like, well, no, but you're coming to this with a fresh perspective where. And even I don't know as much as like some of my friends who have seen this and like are really, really ingrained in this DC like understanding and Flashpoint and all the crazy things that have happened and all the different timelines and blah, 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 and all these things. And it's great for them to look at this and go, no, this is what, no, you just don't get it. Well, yeah, but I'm the regular moviegoer who,
Right.
who paid to see this. Do you know what I mean? And I think, and you're right, as a fan, I still like geek out and love these things. But average moviegoer, Allea, who hasn't read all these comics, you know, you can't just say, well, they didn't make the movie for you. Well, they did. They made the movie for everybody. But there was so much fan service that some folks felt left out, and you can only do that so much. Do you know what I mean? To where you start to alienate like regular folk. And the idea is supposed to be, in my opinion, to bring regular folk into the fold, right? Like be like, hey guys, look how cool our comics and our stories are, and you're like, oh wow, these are cool, and then you start to get into the lore. But if you have to know so much lore just to walk in the door and understand what's happening, then that's wrong. And that's what this scene felt like to me. Like it felt like there was too much, and again, it only felt that way because, again, like Utah said, he's teasing what he would like to come, right? It's not, you didn't have to know. You're supposed to be confused, I guess is what I'm saying, Allea. Like that, I think ultimately we aren't. I don't like that he did that, but I think he wants us to be confused and want to know what's happening so that we'll watch the next movie. But there isn't one as far as we know. So that's the problem. But all that to say, that's again, another 5 or 6 minutes you could cut. I don't know if it's that long, but 2 or 3, whatever, that you could cut out of the movie. It totally didn't need to be there. But it did lead to that final conversation with Martian Manhunter, who, again, was revealed earlier to be impersonating Martha for some bizarre reason. It could have easily just been Martha that did it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He, as the general, he could have asked Martha to help Lois. Like, I mean, there's just so many ways that could have worked out without being a weird. How did he even know? Like, Martha, does Martian Manhunter get their memories when he impersonates them? Like, how does he know how to talk like and be and relate to Lois like Martha? Like, I don't. Again. Right. If you're a DC guy and tell me. I know that I'm speaking from ignorance in this area, but again, I'm the moviegoer that they want to be in love with these movies, and not just the fans who already know. And so help me out with that. But
yeah,
anyway,
was my problem with that.
I did like that they introduced him. I thought it was awesome at the end. He's like, I'm here. Let's And
I like his look. I like the look of Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, so that was neat. But again, it felt tacked on. It felt pointless in the long run. It felt like fan service, and I don't feel like you needed it in this movie. Like, you could have teased it in another way and then just left it for another movie. And this is a tease. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he was only in it for not even 5 minutes total, but it was, it felt a little off. But the fanboys for Martian Manhunter are like, because just like I would be if it was, if Wolverine had shown up at the end of, WandaVision or Professor X, I would have been peeing my pants. I would have been so excited, right? So I get it, but it's like, it felt a little out of place in this particular movie.
Yeah, he was basically just setting up movies that aren't going to be made. Yeah. And, you can argue both sides. Maybe. Well, I kind of
dangling the carrot.
I kind of
for the hashtaggers.
I kind of hope that they don't, because I think that sets a precedent that's going to be very dangerous for the movie industry.
Yeah,
like all of a sudden that you're giving.
Well, I think J.J. Abrams already did that.
Well, all right, I'll give you that.
I mean, I think Rise of Skywalker was the worst of fandoms.
Right,
the worst example of how fandom shouldn't affect the films.
Right.
You know what I mean? Let them tell the stories they want to tell. If we don't like them, okay, fine. We'll wait for the next go around when they reboot anything anyway. Right. But then when you just go the full opposite direction and just give the fans everything they want, you get the garbage that was. Yeah. And in this case, I don't think that was the case. I felt like, but and again, because Zack Snyder didn't get a chance to finish his film, and he did, and I think that's honorable and nice that it happened. But I'm going to disagree with you, Utah. I actually think this should take over the canon. I mean, at this point, like, I'm invested. Like, I wasn't after Justice League. I was like, this is okay. Will I see a second one? Maybe. But I liked this one so much better that I kind of am like, well, now I really want to see where this Cyborg goes. Now I really do want to see Henry Cavill return as Superman again. You know what I mean? Now and I've always said I wanted to see Batman or Affleck return as Batman. I actually think he was pretty subdued in this. I felt like he should have gotten more to do. So I would have liked to have seen him get a movie.
Right, another movie.
And I know a lot of people disagree and don't think it was great, but that's my point is, like, I think he would be great, but he didn't get a chance to really kind of be Batman. And I would like to have seen the detective Batman with Ben Affleck, or the old grizzled Batman. We haven't seen that movie yet. In fact, we're going back to the young Batman again. And I really want to see that old one. So that was just, maybe it's because I'm old now and I want to see a Batman that is a little bit older than me, jumping around and knocking out the Joker. I think that would be pretty. Yeah. I
will say, I did like, as much as too much fan service can be a problem, I did like the little scene of Ben Affleck's Batman on top of the big bat tank.
Oh gosh!
Right out of the Frank Miller.
Those are the amazing things that Zack does sometimes.
Zack is so great at taking a panel or scene, but it doesn't go anywhere.
No, and this was fine because he's like, "Hey, Gordon, I'm here," and then he comes down and talks to him.
Yeah.
But where he does it and it fails is the scenes like I've mentioned before in Man of Steel, or maybe it was Batman vs Superman, where he's just floating above these people who are on a house that's flooded and going under the water, and he's just watching them. And it's all slow-mo, and he's just kind of watching, and I'm like, can you help, Superman? And then in this movie, Arthur does the same thing. There's a guy barely clinging onto the boat as it's sinking. And as it tips, Arthur's on the other side looking like, look how cool I look up here. And the guy's dude, can you help me? No, seriously, look how cool I look. He's like, no, but I'm not gonna be able to breathe out. No, but
I'm having a moment.
First say how cool I am, because I'm cool. And then I'm cool, you're cool. Okay, I got you. I don't get those. I think they look pretty, and that's what Zack likes to do. But it's so bizarre in the sense of a moving picture, the movie. Like in a panel in a comic, you can see that, and in the very next panel, he's got the guy, right? Like something happens. In the movie, we're on this for like 7 minutes. No, I'm joking. But
he's exaggerating.
And he's just standing there. I'm like, do something. So there's a lot of that. And that's the stuff that's got to go, Zack. I'm sorry. But I would watch more of these. I'm actually intrigued now.
I agree with you there. I do think that DC. I feel like had this version been made and released, I feel like the DC cinematic universe would be in a better spot. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. But I also think that Zack Snyder putting these things in for completion's sake, and hitting and teasing at, hey, look where I was going with this, with the odds being slim that where he's going is going to be made and we'll see it.
Yeah, it feels rough. And then he's coming out in the news that this isn't canon. And I'm like, no, see, now you've just made everybody really...
It doesn't...
Don't do that. So
I think it can be canon. The way DC set up their films, they've already said they're all one-offs now. So this
could be its own little thing.
Exactly.
And it clearly is going to lead into the Flash. No
matter what, this leads into
the Flash is coming out of this movie. So that's definitely gonna. So yeah, and if they do Flashpoint, like you could still I feel like you could still tie these together. I feel like you could still do that Justice League epilogue he wants. Although that's not the one I want to see. I'm not crazy about Batman killing people with guns and just whatever.
Batman has a gun a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah. Now he kills the parademons, and you can argue that he doesn't kill humans. Yeah, I don't know. But I know a lot of people are upset about that, and I get it. I'm not dismissing that. I understand. I don't like that aspect of it either, but I can sort of write it off when he starts just shooting humans for no reason. That would suck. But in the crazy future, we want to know how Batman got to that point where he broke his rule and where he'll threaten Joker. You know what I mean? Like that. I get that a little bit.
That's true.
Anyway.
And don't forget, Queen Mira was British at one point.
Yeah. Well, Amber Heard is not going to be in the next Aquaman movie. Did you hear about that?
I did not hear about it. I heard that they were trying to get her to not be in it, but I didn't hear that it was final.
She's not. And they've given several different reasons. I think it's the trouble with Johnny Depp myself.
It has to be that, right?
Yeah, because one of them is not telling the truth, or both of them. Because that whole situation is just a mess. And so most of most of the studios just want to kind of like separate, like,
back.
You guys figure this out because we don't want it as part of our press tour.
Yeah, which is too bad. I thought she did I thought she was a great character in the Aquaman movie. I thought she was great.
I think they're still going to have Mara. They just won't have her. I think they're going to
do
recast, from what I understand.
What? They're going to recast Evan Peters. Is what they're going to do. Evan Peters is going to be recast in everything.
Snoopers be snooping. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, you know what? Again, so final thought, in 30 seconds or less, Utah, final thought on the whole Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Zack Snyder's Justice League is better than Joss Whedon's Justice League, for many reasons. And there's no way it would have been made any other way than for streaming on a streaming service. And I think it's great that it's been done. I enjoyed it. Did I think it was epic and amazing and awesome? Not necessarily, but I enjoyed it. And I'm glad that Zack Snyder got that closure. I will say quickly that the most emotional thing for me was seeing the dedication at the end, and that of her favorite song playing over the credits. That really hit me, just because of everything that, the whole journey to get to here. So,
yeah, that's pretty good.
Stream it, watch it once in pieces.
There you go. Allea, final thoughts?
Literally the exact same.
Yeah.
In pieces. 4 hours, too long. I needed a very long nap after I watched that. And I needed to go run because that slow motion was just too much.
You needed to speed up your real life to recover from all the slow motion.
Yeah, 100%. But overall, I thought it was very good. I thought that it had a very cohesive storyline throughout. Like Jeff said, could have done without some things, but overall, it was very good. Will I watch it again? No.
Yeah.
Which is
not even in pieces?
No, I'm not watching it again. You know what? Like I said before, so I started watching the Josh. Yeah, whatever.
Justice League.
Yes. So I started watching it. I did not finish it because I was I knew that I was in a time crunch to watch the Snyder one. But I would have been invested to watch Josh's. I would not be invested to watch this one because this is an investment. This is literally a time investment to watch it.
That's true. That's fair.
I can't do that again. There
should have been more of this. Okay.
Green Lantern, yeah. Good. Let's not get started on that.
Yeah, sorry. I could have actually gone on a little tangent.
There was a cool little Green Lantern cameo there.
Cut off his arm.
At the beginning, yeah, and the Ring's like, I'm out of here. See ya. And that was kind of cool. But
well, somebody grabbed it.
No, it flies away. It goes and looks for somebody who's worthy, kind of like Mjolnir.
Tried to grab it, but it got.
Yeah, he missed it.
He missed it.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been able to hold on to it anyway. I think,
the
right?
Fact that they built up Darkseid so much.
Yeah,
and we just.
Yeah, and I was the one complaining. I'm like, oh, we're finally going to see a Darkseid battle. I really thought the first half of it was going to be Steppenwolf and the second half was Darkseid, and it didn't happen. But I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised with what we.
Beginning.
Oh yeah, and I thought that was amazing. So, yeah, but again, because it's a setup for more movies and we didn't get to see those, that was a little bit of a disappointment. But overall, I'm kind of in agreement with you guys, though. I would watch it again. I would definitely do it in pieces like we did. Like I said, we did it in 2 parts. Basically, I think right after chapter 3 or whatever they call them ended, we were like, all right, let's go to bed. It was like 1 a.m. and then we got up the next day and finished it early in the morning. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this over top of the original. I think it's a vast improvement from a story perspective. It's amazing how much a story can improve something. You know what I mean? God, 3 it's at maybe 3 hours. Like you need to cut so much out of here. And I'm not talking about the stuff I just praised being put back in. I'm talking about like the whole slow motion segment of Lois getting a coffee. Did we need that? No.
The whole first 10 minutes is like slow motion. That doesn't have to be slow motion.
There's so many things that could have been tightened up and made this a more palatable runtime for DC Studios that would have allowed this to be a theatrical release right out the gate.
Did we need to hear like the whole Icelandic folk song?
That was unnecessary. Yeah, totally unnecessary.
What was up with the smelling of the sweater thing? That was a little.
Oh, I know. Oh God. Okay, before we go, I do have to say this. Here's my thing. How many times is he going to take off his shirt before he gets in the water? Right. But he's always just gotten out of the water with the shirt on.
With the shirt on.
Like sometimes he's okay swimming with the shirt, but other times he's got to take it off first. And then when he takes it off, how does he get another shirt on before he gets out of the water? Because when he's saving the guy on the boat, he's wearing a shirt. When he's saving, I don't know. Anyway,
when he brings him to the bar, he doesn't have a shirt.
Exactly. He did have a shirt at that point, right?
Wet, or it's wet or dry.
No, it was wet.
Opposite of what you expect.
Yeah,
it's like the Hulk and it's a Hulk purple pants thing.
Yeah, but it's literally just here's Jason Momoa taking off his shirt again, and you know who that's for. So, and it's not me. So,
I mean, but it's like.
I guess. All right.
It's an old man.
It's definitely. Oh my gosh. He's at least half our age.
Yeah, but he's not my age. So like, I don't know. He's okay.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like he like looks so angry. Like smile once in a while. Also, he was introduced. Like they didn't even introduce him. He just like came in with his little pitchfork. And
don't call it a trident. It's not a trident.
I know, right?
All right. Well, we think you should still go see Snyder Cut. It's definitely worth watching. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the @ social medias, all those fun things. I'm going to start the music over again because it stopped.
They wouldn't have noticed if you didn't say anything.
And I had to hesitate in order to put it back on. Check us out on all social media. We appreciate you guys. This is our first week actually on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So if you're watching, somebody who's watching on Twitch, thank you so much. And we will be doing that going forward, see when it happens. So we'll see you guys next time. I'm going to do it one more time. One more music. Because I wasn't done entirely. WorldGoneGeek.com. Our website is under construction, but check us out there. We've got our new logo. Our merch is available. But again, the best place is to follow us on Facebook and subscribe, please, to our YouTube channel. That helps us so much. And you get notified every time we go live, including this show on Sunday nights and our game night on Thursday. We'll see you then. Later, guys.
Bye.
All right. We're still live on YouTube, but that'll be the end of the actual podcast. So if you're watching live, you get to see the behind the scenes, which is me pushing this button and saying goodbye for real. Goodbye.